Hi, I'm Brad Page, the President and CEO of Kennebunk Savings. We are so excited to be celebrating the town of Kennebunk's 200th anniversary. 2 entire centuries of a strong and spirited community is something we should all be incredibly proud of. This year is also Kennebunk Savings' 150th anniversary, and we remain the same mutually owned community savings bank that we were back in 1871. Our past is deeply intertwined with this great community. And as we both celebrate, we look forward to a future of continuing our long-standing support of the town and its residents. We hope you enjoy this presentation.
Hi, this is Kathy Ostrander-Roberts. I'm the current town historian for the town of Kennebunk and the present chair of the Bicentennial Committee. I hope that you'll enjoy this presentation. It is about the community of persons of color who once lived here in Kennebunk from the years 1750 to 1832. This presentation evolved from an endeavor that I started about 20 years ago when I wanted to learn more about these individuals I'd read about in various history books and wanted to find out where it was. When I did that, when I finally located the spot, then I wanted to have it researched more with an archaeological dig. Flash forward to 2017, and as chair of the Bicentennial Committee, I wanted the committee to think about what kind of legacy could we leave as a Bicentennial Committee. And various things came up, a town clock, a bench, a tree, things like that. But I wanted it to be something, and I think everybody wanted it to be something more than that, something that was a legacy that showed something that we had achieved that provided knowledge. And that's when I tasked the committee to embrace the idea of furthering the investigation on the community that once was here in our town. And the committee embraced it entirely and got behind it. So the next step was to have the archaeologists, the state archaeologists, get involved, and with funding from the town of Kennebunk and private donations and business donations, we were able to fund 2 archaeological digs on the site so far. The main reason we are doing the archaeological surveys is to have that site become a National Historic Register district, and it looks by all accounts that that's what is going to happen. And so that is our legacy project moving forward, to explain all the different facets of our town, and including shipbuilding, and that we are a sum of all of our parts, not just the more glamorous ones.
So we did an initial walkover, just to see, just along this earthen ridge through the forest. And we were just curious to see if we could see anything just on the ground, any kind of evidence of structures being in that area. Because what you had determined that it was where some of the,
through the historical
African Americans had lived, right? Yep. And so right off, we spotted one little depression, which kind of looked like it might be a cellar hole. Lo and behold, I think the first shovel we were just stuck in, looked at the soil, and there was I think a little piece of redware. And that was like, oh, okay. And it happened to was right by the cellar. So it's like, okay, we've got one site.
Right.
And then we continued walking on down further to the other east edge of the forest, and there was another little depression, and we did the very same thing there. He looked at the soil, and out pops a little piece of brick. You want to be able to screen it, especially since everything we're finding is in that top level. Yeah. That dark sandy gray sand. Yeah.
When we're starting our unit, this is what we would, as soon as we go through the gray, we then just scrape the very surface of the orange or yellow just to see what's there, and because that's where you would find intact features. If you dig down into it, then you're going to disturb that surface, because that's where things are going to first start showing up.
Yep.
it sort of demonstrates why it's important to dig in flat, sort of flat levels, so you can see the soil colors and see, say, if there's a sill stain or a post hole or something like that.
So now what we're doing is we're just expanding so we can see if anything else presents itself.
We're
Looking at
just,
soil.
Yep,
Yeah.
we're just scraping down to see if anything shows up that might give us a hint. You know, if we're looking for anything that might suggest a sill or even a trash pit.
Dark brown soil in here and then gray soil here. So we're basically looking for edges that might indicate some kind of feature associated with the structure that's here. Looks like three little holes were dug and a bunch of material just put into those. And what the purpose is, what the meaning is, we're taking down the fill that's in the cellar, trying to get to the bottom of that.
We found a lot of glass and bits of porcelain, and look at all kinds of glass and charcoal and brick.
Question is what's in. We have a piece of a plate here. We're keeping pieces of burned wood charcoal that could possibly be structural. We have what we think might be a piece of a handle, but it's been super heated. We have some pearlware, some window glass, some creamware. I have this really cool piece of hand paint. Oh, a piece of a pipe stem.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, when so we spent 3 days on site excavating a couple of small areas, and as you can see, we found many examples of ceramics, iron, nails, animal bone for what they had to eat. There's brick, some personal items. There's a button or two as well. So after we finish with the excavation, we bring all the material back to our lab here, and the artifacts are cleaned, and usually that's just with warm water and a brush. Set to dry, we have a chance to identify everything. That's the next step. So we identify what we've got. Once it's been identified, it gets their own bags and artifact tags, and then from there it goes into an access database.
Pipe stems, what we do essentially is we have this fancy little tool, and it measures the bore size
By date.
of the pipe, and you can date it that way. So the earliest pipes had a much larger bore size, and then they gradually decrease. So for this one, for example, here it fits on 4/64. It also fits on 5. Doesn't fit on 6. So we'd call it 5, which is roughly 1720 to 1750.
We did very clearly define 2 loci of occupation of folks on the ridge, and the materials that we found were creamwares and pearlware, ceramics, among others. Very indicative of late 18th or early 19th century. And what I'm going to show you are examples of shards, artifacts that we found from the site, and what those pieces would have looked like when they were whole, right before they were broken. Well, all these artifacts that were in the ground, because of freeze thaw, a lot of the artifacts break up into little tiny pieces, and so
that makes sense.
These actually, the examples have some etching, or not etching, copper wheel engraving on them, which was also very common, and we have a few actually little pieces with stars, engraved stars on them. 2 or 3 pieces of stemware, like a wine glass. It's showing that they have material goods essentially identical to everyone else in the community.
Which is a surprise to me, actually,
Yeah, you helped with the excavation of that. So
I was so excited,
creating
I
the
thought
top.
it was intact.
These little pieces have embossed writing on them, and there's a little shoulder there, and they go to what was a Turlington's balsam body, balsam of life, which was an English bottle that was produced actually for a long time, over 100 years. It kept being copied.
Patent medicine then,
it's
of
the
the
equivalent
era.
of like a patent
That would
medicine,
cure everything.
It's just a
Yes.
small vial, but a little bit
And you can
bigger.
tell that because of its curved edges? Is that how you kind of knew
And
that?
the diameter, so that's a base piece, a bottom piece. And you can see the diameter is just a little bit bigger than what this would have been.
Oh, right,
But
there
a
it
similar
is.
kind of vessel, probably for some kind of medicine. Which is really remarkable. You think, oh, these little teeny tiny sherds, it's creamware, and it's overglazed painted creamware. We got lots of broken pieces of creamware, but very little with the decoration still intact. And if you can see sort of the color, that's kind of orangey red color, it's practically identical to that. Creamware plate, I think there are probably 8 or 10 creamware plates represented, in
the household?
Right.
Okay, in that one
all very
site.
broken, and these are
that's
pieces
because
I
of-
was able to put back together just to give
Oh,
an
you
idea
did,
of,
didn't you?
of what
That's
the
like a
piece would have
puzzle.
looked like. Material goods, you have sort of higher status, more expensive items, and then you have cheaper items. These two pieces are of a Chinese export porcelain saucer. So porcelain would have been quite expensive.
Okay.
And so we don't have this, and would be
Example of how
an
you
example
find
of a
that?
tea bowl that would have gone with that saucer. One little piece of blue glass, and it's from what's called a blown 3-mold vessel, and those are just examples of the type of vessel that it would have been from. So that's the only piece that
one
we have
piece.
of that one. This is Jackfield, which is often tea wares, most often tea wares, and interestingly, we have a piece of a Jackfield lid, teapot lid. And so then you have
right.
so the same idea. And that is actually a stoneware. It's a refined stoneware, so it's hard,
Oh, right.
quite a bit harder than some of these other wares. So the most common vessel pieces that we found on the site are some of these, and it's all pearlware. So these are hand-painted, blue hand-painted pearlware. And then these are just examples of the types of vessels that we have. And what's really fun is when you have a piece like this, which is actually like a tea bowl, and then here's the same motif, sort of a willow motif. That's called Astbury ware. And again, it's a stoneware, so it's quite hard and has a white slip on the interior.
Large buttons, why are they so huge?
Basically, they're what they would be associated with men's waistcoats. And typically at the time, they were known as either white buttons or yellow buttons. What's called factory slip pearlware, factory slip decorated pearlware, again, pieces of a mug. And so here, again, pearlware is called blue shell edge. And then an even scalloped rim, and so then with
I've
an
never
example,
seen it in green.
right? Green
Is that
was
rarer?
clearly less popular, so you don't see it as often. Here, just to represent some objects that are still in conservation. So we have a bone-handled fork. We have the bone handle and the shaft, and then the very end here, the tines had rusted off and broken.
And we found one
But-
that is in really rough shape, but you can definitely tell that that's what it is.
Right, exactly, it's early form. We also have a one scissor blade, and it's basically one of these blades up to about there. And then there's also, this is boot or shoe buckle. They're largely decorative. They're not quite as functional because they're fairly fragile.
Yeah.
So this is just an example of what's pearlware printed plate or transfer printed plate,
Because
and then
of
just
that.
pieces of transfer printed
Yeah, look at the
ceramics.
different
They break
floral
up.
decorations.
Yeah, they break really easily. This is actually probably a teapot or a tea caddy. About the largest, most complete thing that we found. I've just taped the rim on temporarily just to give you an idea of the whole profile of the piece. Milk pan is this form, again, very, very common for cooling milk, but can serve other purposes. And these are just two pieces from the site. Pieces of milk pan. Now, actually, in the cellar, in the large cellar, it's a piece. It's undergoing conservation, but we brought it out. It's tinned, tin metal, which obviously the
We
tin
were pretty surprised
comes
to
off
find
and-
this, I recall.
Yeah.
I mean, that's almost identical to
And
that type of...
exactly. So it gives you a really good sense of what you
What
can even
it
see
was.
the change, the edge of
Yep.
the bottom there. Well, one of again as an archaeologist, one of the real questions is, how are these people transitioning, to sort of to life on their own? And when I think about it, you've been in a horrible enslaved situation. But your clothing is provided for, your food is pretty much provided. You didn't have to worry about the accoutrements of life, so to speak, very much. That was all there.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you're on your own. And so I've wondered, did a lot of these people kind of transition out of that status? Were they given the opportunity to kind of transition, or was it, okay, bang, open
Good
the door,
luck.
close
Yeah,
the door,
we won't
you're on your
probably
own.
ever know that.
No,
the
but
answer
it
to
just
that.
but to think of that, having to go through that, is really scary.